Oh my goodness. Good morning, good afternoon, whatever it is for you. I hope you're having a fantastic day. My name is Zach Schaumler. This is Strong Opinion Sports, episode 656. And joining me is my co-host, man of the hour, Nathan Hawthorne. Nathan, how are you?
Ooh, man of the hour? I'll take that. I'm doing great. How about yourself?
Yeah, I'm doing great. I want to take a minute though, actually, for real, to like intentionally acknowledge you because I was talking about the show with Molly today. She's like, "What are you going to talk about?" I told her the rundown, and as I started talking about the show, it just came out like from my heart, genuinely. Like, I'm so excited to have Nathan on this show, like doing it with you, and I just maybe want to say to you, like as a friend, but also so the audience can hear, like, you're doing a great fucking job. Like, you really are. And it's so
Thank
much
you.
fun to do this with you. You take it seriously. Like, part of why it took me years and years and years to add another person was that I just didn't trust I could find another person who would take the opportunity seriously and treat it like a real, like a thing. And frankly, you treat it like a job. And I appreciate that. You do prep, you do research when I send you stuff, you watch the dumb videos I send you. Like, it really is. I feel this sense of collaboration that I really, really enjoy. So, man, thank you for your effort. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, man, I appreciate you recognizing that. Once again, thank you to you for giving me the platform to come on here and talk football. Football is my favorite thing in the world, other than my fiance and my two cats. But it's my favorite thing in the world, and being able to stay connected with it after transitioning out of being, involved in football. This has just been such a blessing for me. So this is, I might be prepping like it's a job, but it certainly doesn't feel like it. It's a great time. Thank you.
Today is all about the Patriots. I'm probably going to call this episode Bill Belichick's biggest mistake, then like a semicolon or whatever the two dots are for the word is for that. And then the wins and sins of the Patriots, because there are some wins in there. There's a lot of sins, a lot of things that went wrong. It's a
Ooh,
fun
wins
title,
and
and it
sins.
matters. Yeah, the
Yeah.
wins. I was kind of going for like Guns of the Patriots, like what's the Metal Gear Solid game title. I was like, can we find anything that kind of resembles that? Honestly, I really couldn't, but I did my best. Now, ironically, so what I want today is all about the New England Patriots. I've got a lot to talk, like to show you guys, and I don't know if this episode is going to be able to be monetized on YouTube, honestly, because we're going to play a lot of clips from other podcasts and other videos that I don't own the rights to, and I'm fine with that. Taking the L. I think sharing the information we're sharing in this episode matters, and it's podcasts. There are two podcasts I want to highlight in this episode that I don't know that national media really found. I don't know that people really picked up on like what was shared. And so the two, just for full transparency, I encourage people, go listen to it. I'm going to play a lot of clips from two podcasts. Those two podcasts are Tom Curran's Patriots Talk. He had Joe Dickinson on, he's been Max Jones' quarterback coach for like 14 years. So Joe Dickinson gave us a lot of information. And then also the Athletic NFL Show, hosted by Robert Mays. Robert Mays, I don't know him from a hole in the wall. I've never heard of the guy before, but I respect him. I watched his full interview with Damien Harris, former Patriots running back, and he's an outstanding host. He asked really good questions. He led the conversation in a really good direction. If we're going to share lots of clips from two other podcasts, I want to give them a shout out because for real, like the two people, Tom Curran and Robert Mays, did a great job conducting their interviews they did with each person. And Damien Harris, that episode, it was about 2 months ago, came out on the Athletic NFL Show. It's called Damien Harris Speaks Out about the doomed Matt Patricia and Joe Judge years. And so these two podcasts we're going to talk about Tom Brady, share some of his clips from his Patriots Hall of Fame ceremony. We're going to share some clips from Damien Harris talking about the Bill Belichick situation. And then we're going to share some clips from the Tom Curran Patriots Talk podcast with Joe Dickinson. All of these things I'm going to share on this episode, and we're going to watch them together and then discuss them. They provide context for and better understanding for what happened in New England in the last couple of years, especially as Mac Jones, a player who once did well, really kind of declined and ultimately lost his job and got cut and traded to Jacksonville. Does that all make sense to you, Nathan? Do you like that plan? Do you feel on board with that?
Yeah, I'm excited to dive into some of what went right and some of what went wrong, most of which did go wrong. And hear from some perspectives that have a much closer relationship with some of those players who are on the team and just have greater insight than us. It's always great to be able to pick those brains.
The the intentional title of this episode is, again, it's going to be Bill Belichick's biggest mistake. Now, I think when you listen to this show, there's going to be two moments you could point out as being Belichick's biggest mistake, and we'll talk about and debate what actually is a bigger mistake to you. But before we do any of that, actually, ironically, I wanted to talk about the Falcons to start today's show, and it's weirdly like kind of feathered into and paired with the Patriots because Matthew Judon, an incredible pass rusher, a 4-time Pro Bowler, got traded from the Patriots to Atlanta. Kind of weird. We were going to talk about it, and I'm like, well, it actually kind of fits in right in line with the Patriots conversation today. Atlanta got Matthew Judon for a 3rd-round pick, which is really low, honestly. Now, Matthew Judon's 32 years old. He's a veteran. He's expensive. I get why he's not worth like a 1st-round pick. I understand that, but it does feel shockingly low value for how good of a player he is. Is that how that strikes you?
Yeah, that's exactly how it struck me. And again, knowing that Raheem Morris is the head coach, a defensive guy in Atlanta, and them taking this risk on Matthew Judon, you could tell that there was some unhappiness. I believe earlier in the year, there was a few clips of Judon not suited up at the start of training camp on the sideline. So for Raheem Morris to see that, I'm not sure who called who, but what a great pickup for the Falcons. I think it just further leans into the fact that the Patriots are in a complete reset and rebuild, trying to start fresh and new. Yeah, definitely a great value, especially for a 3rd-round pick.
Is it fair to say the Patriots right now are picking up the pieces that Bill Belichick left behind? I mean, they really are. No, I don't want to disrespect Bill Belichick. I would never intentionally do that, but he has left a mess behind him as he's taken off and moved on from the Patriots.
Yeah, and I think that they'll be picking this mess up for the next couple of years. The first thing they need to fix is their offensive line. We know that they've got plenty of quarterbacks in the room. One of them's got to work, but they've got to fix that offensive line, and they got to get some offensive weapons in the building, and they have to do it stat. But like I said, they'll be continuing to pick up those pieces for the next couple of years, and it probably won't be for another 2 or 3 before we start to see a team that's consistently performing above 500. And it looks like we got a little visitor up top. Did you know that actually in that last episode, I was so locked in, I didn't even realize that she was back there.
Oh,
but
really?
Now I'm like, there she is.
Dude, It was hilarious. Like the minute we started recording the episode, gosh, it feels like yesterday. It was 2 days ago now. Your cat, the minute we start recording, jumps up on that platform behind you on the bookshelf and is like just chilling and hanging out. She wants to be on the show. She really has the strong desire to get screen time.
It's honestly, it's a great reminder. Her grandparents got her a cat jungle gym kind of setup that I need to install. So she does a great job of reminding me, hey, until we get that thing set up, I'm going to be jumping on your bookcases. Plus, we just moved in here in San Francisco. We're still trying to figure out where all of our stuff goes in our home. So great to have you up there, Rhea.
On top of adding Matthew Judon, the Atlanta Falcons also signed safety Justin Simmons to a 1-year, $8 million contract. Again, Atlanta is the team to beat by far in the AFC South, or the NFC South, excuse me. Like, it doesn't feel real that there's a possibility. They're in the conversation. I don't know if this is a hot take, but I think we actually should consider Atlanta in the conversation for the best team in the NFC. I know that's it's a drastic change, but it's Detroit, 49ers, Philly, and Atlanta, right? Like Atlanta could make the Super Bowl from the NFC, right? Do we kind of agree on that?
Yeah, I think that for them in particular, a few more things will have to go right than for the other teams. I think that for a team like the Lions, they need to build on what they had last year, which was, again, being a few plays away and actually leading in that divisional round to go to leading in the NFC Championship to go to the Super Bowl. Green Bay, another great example. If Jordan Love proves that wasn't a fluke, okay, we're in great shape. The Niners, get a few guys healthy, get Ayuk back. they're going to be trending right. The Falcons, again, just because everybody is so new, including Raheem Morris, including offensive and defensive coordinators, I think they just need a few more things to go their way this year. Not to say that the coaching staff and the players aren't talented and that they're not building something. But I think of all of those teams, I'm not quite ready to say Super Bowl, just because, again, like the ball needs to bounce their way, I think, a few more times this year than at those other places I mentioned.
Well, they already got, remember when we saw the strength of schedule, though, the other day? Like, they have, by a mile, the easiest schedule in the NFL, Atlanta does. And they're a really good football team. I think they could walk their way to 13-4 and the number one seed in the NFC, just given the schedule and the teams they're playing. For real. Like, I know it's a big change to suddenly be like, hey, Atlanta's one of the best teams in the NFC, but like, for real, they are. I mean, I would not be shocked if in January we're talking about Atlanta as a Super Bowl team, like for real, given the monumental top to bottom changes they have made as an organization, how much better they've gotten. And the rich got richer again today. Matthew Judon, Justin Simmons. This is a defense that's going to be really good. It's an offense that I think is going to succeed for the first time in a while. We've been waiting and waiting for that offense in Atlanta to be good. They still have talent.
So true.
Man, and then on top of that, whenever Kirk Cousins moves on, they got Michael Penix Jr. there too, which if Kirk gets hurt, Michael Penix Jr. is going to play really well too. I mean, I really think it's deep everywhere in Atlanta. I don't want to overhype this team. I remember that team on paper in Philly a couple of years ago. We called them the dream team and they were terrible. So I don't want to get too ahead of our skis, but it does feel like Atlanta is a really good football team that no one's talking about.
Yeah, I think with that addition of Justin Simmons as well, you've now got AJ Terrell, Justin Simmons, and Jesse Bates back there. You talk about having to potentially go up against a team like Philadelphia, who has two arguably number ones with AJ Brown and Devontae Smith. You feel pretty good about those matchups. And again, no matter if it's your safeties or your corners, I feel very good about that back end that Atlanta has. You add Judon to help try and get to the quarterback. Raheem Morris is really setting this team up for success.
So before we do ad reads, I want to say something. I was standing in the lobby of my building as I walked in. You texted me like, you ready to go? And I realized I think you've lived in this building, haven't you? Like, am I living in the old building you used to live in?
I did. I lived in that building in 2022.
It's hilarious. The weird ways this show intertwine. Okay, we got to let the world know. This episode is brought to you by Gametime. Everyone knows the absolute best thing to do during the summer is go watch an MLB game. Your friends, a cold drink, a hot dog. MLB games are a great time, and the Gametime app makes getting tickets even faster and easier. Prices on the Gametime app actually go down the closer it gets to the start of any sporting event. They've got killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their lowest price guarantee. Gametime takes the guesswork out of buying tickets. Here's what Gametime does for you. You can save up to 60% off buying last minute for sports, concerts, comedy, theater, and more. They've got flash deals where you can save even more with exclusive in-app deals on select seats ahead of the game or event. There are zone deals where you can save even more when you choose a section and let Gametime choose the seats for you. They've got all-in pricing where toggling this feature shows the total upfront with no surprise fees at checkout. There are seat views where you can get a panoramic view from your seat in the app before you buy tickets. And Gametime has a lowest price guarantee, or Gametime will literally credit you 110% of the difference. On top of all of that, Gametime has ticket coverage. Your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply again. Create an account and redeem with the code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. This episode is also brought to you by Prize Picks. Prize Picks truly has something for every sports fan, from basketball, MLB games, hockey, League of Legends, football, everything you can imagine. Prize Picks is America's #1 fantasy sports app. Making picks makes watching games more engaging, and you could turn something like $5 into $50. Prize Picks offers quick and easy deposits. You can even use Apple Pay. On top of all of that, put your skills to the test in daily fantasy. Go to prizepicks.com/CLNS and use code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100. That's prizepicks.com/CLNS, code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100. Prize Picks, daily fantasy made easy. Nathan, here's what we're going to do. First of all, I'm watching a video on Reddit right now of Drake May, the Patriots rookie quarterback. Now, the ball isn't caught. It's a throw to, man, it's beautiful. It's dropped.
Baker,
it's in a preseason game against the Eagles, down along the middle of the field. Oh, Baker drops it, but it's an effortless, beautiful deep ball. I wanted to bring that up. Here's what I want you to do, Nathan. Go to the link I sent you. It's 656 Nathan Prep. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 clips to watch on the show today. It's a lot. It's a lot to watch and discuss and go through. And if we have time, if we're like still feeling like, hey, we got a lot of time left of the show, we got Patreon questions we could also read. If we don't get to them, we'll read them on the next week's show on Tuesday. But really, the key of this episode is we got sponsors. We're a week behind on the sponsors. We needed something. And I've actually been quietly preparing these clips to watch on the show for forever. And it'll be fun to watch them with you, have a conversation about them. Are you ready to play clip number 1?
Yeah, let's play clip number 1. Okay,
time for clip number 1. This is Tom Brady at his Hall of Fame induction is the word for the Patriots Hall of Fame. Indictment, I think, is actually like a legal term, which is bad. This is Tom Brady.
Indicted.
No. I certainly never do. But this is Tom Brady. He's getting put in the Patriots Hall of Fame, and this is a clip from his speech he gave. Clip number 1. Let's play it.
The foundation of a successful team, a family, or business is asking what you can do to support the mission. The Patriots embodied that. Everyone was committed to winning. Everyone was selfless. Everyone was always asking, what can I do to help the team win?
What stands out to you about that clip of Tom Brady talking about supporting the mission, everyone being all in?
Yeah. The thing that sticks out to me is the selflessness, and even on the biggest stage where the moment is about him, he's not there to give you a message about how great he was to be inside, the Patriots Hall of Fame. He's saying this is part of what it takes, being an individual of service and sacrificing. What can you do for other people? And that goes beyond the football field. It's not just about, how can you get better for your teammates, right? It translates to life as well. And I thought that was so cool of him to take that direction.
This episode is going to be mostly talking about Bill Belichick and his decision-making. But he's forever intertwined with Tom Brady. And the reason we're starting with Tom Brady is to show, this is what Tom Brady brought to the table as a leader, as a person setting the tone for the Patriots organization. Why they won 6 Super Bowls. And I just walk away from this clip, especially. I first watched this when I was coaching, and I showed it to my players. And I was like, man, this is how we got to be every single day. Yeah, I didn't even pick up on the fact that this is Tom Brady's moment, and he's choosing to, share his moment and his spotlight with the other people he used to work with and shine a light on all the cast members that helped him win a Super Bowl. But on top of that, it's so true that in business, and I work for an HVAC company, Able Heating and Cooling in Portland. I want to be the best HVAC company in Portland. I think we all do at my company. We work really hard together to fulfill that goal. And it's because we're all on the same page and working really hard together that we succeed and do well. I really think we offer the best service in the area, but it's because my owner and everyone below him, all the way down to the very lowest bottom role of the company, we're all on the same page working together and putting customers ahead of other stuff. It's the same with football, man. I was so fired up when I first saw this clip because it's yes, that is what you got to bring to the table every single day. And Tom Brady understood that. The reason why the Patriots succeeded to the degree they did under Tom Brady is because of his leadership, not just his ability. He was great, but it's the culture he created. The Patriot way was established by Belichick, but it was really enforced by Tom Brady, the teammate. making
Yes.
sure everyone else around him was accountable and doing what they had to do. And I just watched that clip and I go, man, Tom Brady was an incredible leader. Like, we are so grateful we got to watch him and witness what he did live and in person.
Yeah, just to double down on what you said, being somebody of service to your team, doing that extra work, not for you and your individual stats, but knowing that winning your 111th is going to make it easier for the next guy and the next guy and the next guy. For all of that to come together and meld, and treating every single day like it's your first day, taking in all the knowledge you can and doing your best, again, to be the best for your teammates. So awesome.
Let's watch clip number 2. This one is kind of a sideways step. It's actually not about football so much as it's Tom Brady talking about a topic that I've actually gone back and forth a lot with in my family. This is the only clip out of the ones we're going to play that's kind of like, that seems like a side conversation, but I want to have it. I really liked it. It goes in sequential order. This is Tom Brady talking about his kids.
I get asked a lot if my kids play football. My response is that I'll support them in any of their dreams. Whatever makes them happy makes me happy.
So this clip is a sideways step, but it's a topic that's near and dear to my heart. And really it leads into the next clip. But this is the first part of the conversation. I cut it actually to talk about this briefly first. If I have kids who want to play football, I'm going to encourage them and love them and support them. But if I have kids who don't want to play football, just because I played football and I think it's huge for development as a human, and I really think football, I think everyone should play football. Like, it was so good for me. It's been foundational. It taught me so much about life. But if I have kids that don't want to play football, like, I'm not going to push them into that. I just want to support them, whatever they're doing. And I wanted to acknowledge this take from Tom Brady. It's such a healthy perspective on parenting. I'm a guy without kids, but I think about having kids often and the responsibility of it all. And I wanted to, while we're going to talk about this whole speech Tom Brady gave, let's acknowledge this brief moment that I think this is great parenting. Would you kind of agree?
Yeah, I think that it's a great perspective on parenting to bring where, it's not necessarily your job to raise a mini you or to, live vicariously through their kids. If there's something that's making them happy within reason, right? Like, let's be real here. We know what we're talking about. If something makes them happy, whether it's sports, whether it's art, whether it's music, whatever it is, encourage that passion. And I think that's what Tom Brady's getting at. It's not to push and shove your kids into one direction, only do this, only do that. But if you start to recognize and see that they have a true passion for something, it's your job to nurture that passion and to help them grow within it with good, fundamental, strong values of hard work, determination, consistency, all these other things. But it's by no means, again, our job to raise an exact copy of yourself. It's our job to embrace our young kids, provide guidance, and again, allow them to find their passions and encourage them to keep chasing it.
I also think it's worth noting, part of why Tom Brady succeeded at the level he did was because he did the thing he cared about the most. And if you're pushing kids into something they don't really care about, when I was coaching, there was this one receiver who was just like had all all the tools, man. Like, he was so, like, you look at him like, that kid's an incredible player on paper. But also I wondered sometimes, like, does he want it? Does he, like, is it him or is it his dad? And I felt this uncomfortable moment as a coach. I'm like, does he want it, or is it the person? Is it his parents pushing him? Like, because the reality is he's going to play D1 football if he wants to. If he doesn't want to, he's not. I mean, it's really up to him and what kind of work he wants to put in and kind of preparation he wants to put in. And whatever your kids are into, you just, I think, support them and let them, pursue it the way they want, support them. And part of why Tom Brady became the best quarterback I've ever seen is because the thing he pursued and got support in pursuing was a thing he was really, really passionate about. I think it's so uncommon in sports among dads. If your kid wants to play piano, like, support that. If he wants to be in the arts or do theater, like, hey, if my kid's a theater kid, I'm going to go to every play. I'll drive him wherever he needs or she needs. Like, I will be supportive. My job, I feel like, as a parent or a future parent, is going to be support my kids doing what they love and want to do, not pushing them in a direction that they don't necessarily want to go. And I think in sports, we so rarely see that detail with parenting that, hey, if your kid doesn't want to play football, don't force him. Like, Find whatever he loves, like let him do that and support him in doing that and drive him where you got to go, whatever that looks like. But don't force your kid to do something they just simply don't want to do, or try to be passionate about a sport they're just not passionate about.
Yeah. Being passionate on their behalf. And again, I don't have kids yet. Hopefully, one day have kids with my wonderful future wife. But yeah, don't force them into something. Now there is an element to sticking something out once they've started, to grow and push through. Like at some point in our lives, we all do things we don't want to do, but within reason, right?
Yeah, it's very nuanced, and I want to be careful how. Again, I'm not a parent.
Yeah, I don't want to get too much into how to parent when I don't have kids myself, but I just know that feeling supported in what it is that you find passion or that you have passion for will do wonders, as a kid growing up.
Well, I think we all grew up as athletes. Around there was always one kid who was like he's there because his parents made him. Do you remember like kids like that who
Yeah.
in Little League baseball
Yeah.
and football, like Johnny's dad is way more into this than Johnny is. You're like, he wants to go home. And his dad is screaming at him. Interesting. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't want to be that parent. That's my big fear.
Dad's screaming at the umpire, talking to the coach after about why Johnny's not playing, all that kind of stuff, Again, let's not live vicariously through our kids.
Well, let's be clear. If I have a kid who wants to play quarterback, like I'm going to be over the moon. I'm going to have so much fun training this kid, whatever he wants, right? But you got to let him choose that. You got to back off. And we're now going long on a total side conversation, but I saw Tom Brady say this and I was like, I want to cherry pick that. That's awesome and rare to hear in the sports world. Let's play clip number 3. It's labeled C. Here's Tom Brady talking about now why he encourages everyone to play football.
I would encourage everyone to play football for the simple reason that it is hard. It's hard when you're young to wake up in the off season at 6 a.m. to go train and work out, knowing that all your friends are sleeping in and eating pancakes. It's hard when you're on your way to practice, weighed down with all your gear, and it's 90 degrees out and all the other kids are at the pool or at the beach, and your body is already completely exhausted from workouts in 2-a-days.
I love that clip, man. It's hard. Like, that's why you should do it. It makes me think of that common phrase, nothing worth doing in life is easy. And I just look back at my football career, and it's funny, when I started coaching, I made this like Instagram post about coaching and about how I'm coaching now. And I looked through all my old pictures and I found all these pictures of football every step of the way. And I'm like, man, football's been a centerpiece of my life for so long. And it shaped me in so many ways. And I learned so many lessons about life and the realities of my job every day. Like, I'm still the quarterback I was in high school and in college. I just do it now differently. But the preparation, the leadership, the encouragement I give the people around us. Today, 2 of the installers that helped me out on Friday were doing a different job unrelated to me. I brought them lunch. Like, just, I don't need to do that. It's $40 that I don't need to spend. But I felt like, hey, these guys really helped me to set the tone as a leader in my company. I'm going to bring them lunch and make their life a little easier. Little details like that, the way you treat people, really matter. And that's a lesson I learned in football. Like, treating your offensive lineman is really valuable and it's going to help you have a better time succeeding. It's the same way with the people at my work. And I just really love this message from Tom Brady that everyone should play football. I love it, man. I'm curious what you would think about it. That's why, like I said, what we said before, because it's like, not everyone has to, let's be clear, but man, I think everyone could benefit from playing football.
Yeah. It's just like you said, football is hard and your body and your mind get mentally and physically taxed. And that's one of the things that a lot of people sometimes don't think about when they see that finished product that's showing up on field on Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays, right? That hours, the physical and mental grueling hours that go into performing on the field. And it is hard. And I think one thing he's alluding to is sacrifice. And FOMO is real. Seeing your buddies go out, especially when you get a little bit older, they're going out to parties. They don't have to be up in the morning to do weights and then go to film and then maybe grab something quick to eat, do a little homework. Now you got to come back for practice, and then practice is over, and then you got to go grab a little bit to eat again, and now you got film again for the evening, and then you get home and you got to deal with all the things that you have at home, and maybe if you want to, you got to get a little bit more film in, and there's just so much that can go into this game of football, but it can also give you so many different life lessons about perseverance, dedication, consistency, showing up for your teammates, showing up for others around you. And yeah, man, it is just hard. And I think about it now, and I think about, the 9 to 5 I have now. I feel like I've got so much free time. Right? Because when you pack all of those things in to deliver on football, you get to the quote unquote real world, you feel like you can balance and manage your time. Football's hard. The sacrifice is real. The FOMO is real. And you just have to dedicate yourself to it. And again, it doesn't have to be football. Basketball's hard. Baseball's hard. To be great at anything, it is hard. And you have to consistently do things that other people don't do.
I also think about how much in my day job, working in HVAC, I all the time do stuff I don't want to do. Like I mean, that's the job. Getting into crawl spaces, looking in attics to track down ductwork and how the ductwork works. Today, for example, I got a call from a customer who I personally, I'm not an installer. Let's be clear, Nathan. I'm a salesman. Every once in a while, though, I got the skills. I was a technician. I can do it. It was an emergency situation. Guy had heat stroke. They needed AC. I'm like, I can do it tomorrow. Like, I don't want to. It's not my job, but like, I have the skills. You need AC badly. Let's just get it done. I installed for them last week, but now one little technical detail, I temporarily set up their electrical, but I'm not an electrician. Electrician had to go do the work. So the electrician went today to do the work, and he messed up the system. Like the electrician got to a working system, did his job, and left with it broken and not working. And it's like, God dang it. So I had to go to I'm in Hillsboro, Oregon, doing something else like for work, and I get a call from a customer. My thing's broken, and I'm like, okay, I know everyone's busy at my company. Like, I'm just going to go to the guy's house and solve that problem. I went to his house, I figured it out, I reconnected the wiring, I fixed it. Like, I don't want to do that, but that's the right thing to do. And it's a little microcosm of there's so many things at my job I do that I don't want to do, but that's part of what it takes to feed my family and take care of Molly. And I learned that all from football. Like, part of preparation, part of, the bigger goal is doing things you don't want to do along the way. I learned that in football, and that's a lesson I carry with me every single day. I really, really agree with Tom Brady's message that everyone can benefit and learn something from their time playing football. I think everyone should, if they can and have an inclination to.
Amen.
Let's play clip D now. It's a continuation of what Tom Brady was talking about.
But understand this, life is hard. No matter who you are, there are bumps and hits and bruises along the way. And my advice is to prepare yourself, because football lessons teach us that success and achievement come from overcoming adversity, and that team accomplishment far exceeds anyone's individual goals. The truth is, you don't have to be special. You just have to be what most people aren't. Consistent, determined, and willing to work for it. No shortcuts.
What stands out to you about that clip from Tom Brady? Almost like a motivational speech.
Yeah, what stands out is how plain and simple he makes it, right? And is it always, black and white? No, but the point is you don't have to do a whole ton more than anybody. You just have to be consistent. And you have to be determined to maintain that level of consistency. And that's really all it is. Can you show up and keep doing those little things right? Do you have the determination to get up and do those little things when you're tired? Maybe you got a little less sleep. Maybe you're a little hungry. Maybe you're a little tired. Maybe you got something else going on. Okay, we all get that. But can you find it within yourself to be consistent and have that determination to get things done? And I think that's put so plainly and so simply, and I thought it was beautiful.
Attention to detail is what made Tom Brady the player and person he is today. He was not a better athlete than anyone else in the football world. He wasn't faster. He wasn't stronger. He might have been taller than some other guys. He didn't have the biggest arm ever, but it was his attention to detail that made him great. And, we're after this clip, the rest of the clips are now talking about Mac Jones, and we're going to move away from Tom Brady. But I wanted to start with Tom Brady to highlight Tom Brady is what really set the tone in the Patriots organization for such a long time. I want to tell you another HVAC story. In HVAC, you use a thing called line hide. When you're running refrigerant lines on the outside of a house, you use a thing called line hide. It looks like a gutter. It's two pieces you snap together. Well, you got to use a coupler at the bottom, because if you snap two pieces together and just leave them on the wall, eventually it's going to slide down the wall because there's nothing on the front piece holding it in place. You put a coupler on the bottom. That little detail keeps the front piece from sliding down over time and getting uneven and looking all wonky and weird. Little details like that are things I do in my job every single day. That's what made Tom Brady great too, is that attention to detail. Every little thing he could control, he did really, really well. He's right. You don't have to be this, freak of nature, best athlete of the world. You got to do the little things right and be better at the little things, the attention to details. I find Tom Brady so inspiring, man. He's my favorite player of all time. I'm very open about that. We're going to talk about the biggest mistake Bill Belichick ever made. You could make an argument that the first thing that could be is him letting Tom Brady walk away. We saw Tom Brady leave the Patriots, go to Tampa, and immediately win a Super Bowl, make a massive impact. And for years, there was a debate. Was it Tom Brady or was it Bill Belichick? And we saw Bill Belichick at the end of Tom Brady's run almost refused to support him, refused to get him great weapons. And we saw Brady, when he had good weapons in Tampa, he won a Super Bowl. And so I think you can make an argument. One of the things Bill Belichick did terribly was simply letting Tom Brady walk away from that organization. The guy who, frankly, set the tone and allowed them to win 6 Super Bowls. We saw what happened with the Patriots after Brady was gone. It wasn't Belichick by himself that made the Patriots win. I would argue it was both of them. But I think Tom Brady was a way bigger component than we ever realized. And we didn't learn that till Tom Brady left the Patriots. That's why we started with Tom Brady here, playing clips of this was the fearless leader in New England. He was an incredible motivator. He really understood how to treat people. He had incredible attention to detail. He was the Patriot way. And Tom Brady being allowed to leave New England is really a mistake, in my opinion. I can't believe he walked away and was allowed to go to Tampa and win a Super Bowl rather than being embraced and supported by Belichick. It's frustrating to me. What say you to all that?
Yeah, I like to err on the side of giving them both credit, and I think that if we're talking about this in terms of these most recent years, yeah, absolutely, we should not have allowed, the Patriots should not have allowed Tom Brady to walk out the door. To me, he should have retired a New England Patriot. That's not always how things shake out. But I think about also earlier in Tom Brady's career when you had guys like Teddy Bruschi, and a little bit later in the years, you had a safety like Patrick Chung. Like there were some foundational guys on that defense as well who have found their way out of being with the Patriots. And I think it's important to recognize quarterback has potential, right? Potential to be one of the longer careers in the NFL because physically other positions just can't take the hits, right? The quarterback benefits from being protected, especially now from a lot of those larger hits, protect the faces of the league. So yes, Tom Brady was a major reason for what was going on in New England and the success that they had. I do think, again, on that flip side of the ball in the defense, there were some other key players as well. As things started to get a little bit later, I think is when you saw the disparity between Tom Brady holding that culture together, as we saw Belichick perhaps, senile might be the wrong word, but turn a little more senile and that ego truly growing to be like, no. Like, this is my team. I draft the players. I hire the coaches. I move the needle here, move the needle, whatever you want to say. So I think in the later years, yeah, absolutely. I think what we saw the effect of Tom Brady. But for a large part of that dynasty, I do think it was both guys.
A Patriots fan would know. I don't know off the top of my head, but I'll tell you this. I can't think of a player whose time in New England under Belichick ended with them walking away into the sunset. Everyone left a little before they really wanted to, right? Bill Belichick was a master of saying, this player's near the end of his rope. Let's move off. He let Wes Welker leave. Wes Welker went to Denver. and was incredible. Belichick had a knack for, and often wisely, walking away from players before they wanted to be done with their careers and making them finish their career somewhere else. What's sad about that? So as wise and kind of actually brilliant that is from a tactician standpoint, it sucks to treat human beings that way, but it's a good move for a GM. I would argue the only player who never should have been given that treatment was, in fact, Tom Brady. The core reason why you have things the way they were in New England. Tom Brady was what set the tone every single day. And by not treating him with the ultimate respect, I think it damaged the way everyone viewed, oh, if you're going to treat Tom Brady that way, like, how are you going to treat us? I think it really, I would imagine, made everyone kind of go, huh, that's weird, right? I don't really get that. Is this where I really want to be?
Yeah, and I just think from a straight up, football point of view, don't let a franchise quarterback and one of the best quarterbacks in the league walk out the door, regardless of how old he is. I just wouldn't have done it that way.
Let's play a clip. This is now Damien Harris on I said the podcast earlier. This is the Athletic NFL show hosted by Robert Mays. Shout out to Robert Mays. It came out about 2 months ago. Listen to Damien Harris's response in this clip. He's asked a question about Bill Belichick.
When you saw that Bill Belichick did not get a job in this cycle, what was your initial reaction?
I ain't gonna lie, I wasn't surprised.
So I didn't need to include that. It's kind of maybe almost petty to show this clip of Damien Harris laughing at Belichick. But I wanted to because it really highlights how he viewed the situation. What do you make of that gut reaction of him finding out, and when asked point blank, are you surprised Belichick wasn't hired?
I mean, when you got an answer that quick and it comes with a chuckle, that just tells me that there are so many stories, so many things that happened, so much hot gossip, if you will. And I just want to sit down, have a few beers with Damien Harris and just hear all about it. Because obviously he's not going to give everything up on something that's going to be, publicly broadcasted. But man, not a good look for Bill Belichick or the Patriots.
No, and he does get into it quite a bit. I mean, I don't know that we can have a beer with him, but he does. We got a bunch of clips of him really giving us details about the Patriots. Let's play clip number 2 from Damien Harris. It's labeled clip F for you. Here's him talking about Bill Belichick.
Bill was the head coach. Bill was the GM. Bill was damn near the offensive coordinator, damn near the defensive coordinator, damn near the special teams coordinator, damn near this, damn near that. He needs full on control. Like, that's just the kind of guy Bill Belichick is. But at the same time, can you blame him? Because in the 20 years where he had full control, he had a lot of success. So you can't blame him.
I really like that answer. It highlights the unusualness of Bill Belichick, and maybe what he was looking for with other jobs is he wanted that power he had in New England. And the setup Belichick had in New England was unlike anything we'll probably ever see in the NFL again, where he had his hands in everything. And it seemed like Bill didn't know how to delegate or didn't trust in the people around him enough to delegate to his lieutenants. I don't know if that's the brain drain. You just lose a bunch of coordinators over time and you have fewer and fewer people you trust or what. I do appreciate that Damien Harris acknowledges, like, well, can you blame him? Like, he did win a lot for a long time, but part of the downfall of Bill Belichick does appear to be his inability to delegate and keep his hands out of everything, spiderwebbing. What do you make of that?
Yeah, to me, what it tells me is Bill was unable to change with the times. Football from the early 2000s up until now has changed a lot. And while a lot of the fundamentals that he has, especially on the defensive side of the football and how he plays and how he strategizes still works, I think that there was an inability from him to develop, whether that was offense or special teams. There was an inability for his brain to further develop on those fronts. And because he used to have it all under that one roof that he had, right, where he had control of defense, offense, special teams, specializing in defense, and you have other teams and other coaches, and they are overdeveloping, if you will, kind of like think about it like new technology like AI, and you're still, writing down with pen and paper. And I just think that he was unable to grow in other areas of the game. And that's ultimately what hurt. And so you add in these two factors where he wanted the control, but he no longer had the expertise to control the offense and special teams. That just spelled disaster.
Bill got lapped by people like Mike McDaniels and Andy Reid, Kyle Shanahan, this new Dan Campbell, even this new wave of coaches who treat their players differently than the older generation did. Bill didn't adapt very well to the changing times of the NFL. And it's a problem.
Yeah. And I'm going to be honest, I think it's less about how you treat players. Everyone talks about like, a player's coach and all these head coaches and all the assistant coaches underneath them. They are hard on their players, regardless of how you put it. There's no NFL coach that is not going to harp on their players or play the guys that A, they trust to get the job done, or B, even if they don't like them, they're getting the job done. That is the nature of the NFL. It's a what have you done for me lately league, and that's who's going to play. So I don't think it's about the treatment of players per se.
I disagree. I disagree, if I may. I want to push back.
Yeah, push back.
It's not that we don't hold players accountable, right? It's not that I'm sure Bill Belichick and Mike McDaniel, right? They hold their players to a similar level of accountability, but it's the way you deliver the message. I guarantee Mike McDaniel's the coach in Miami. The way he delivers the message of, hey, you got to be better in this moment. You can't make that happen. It's said, I know this sounds so cheesy, but it's said with love. It makes it clear to the player, like, we're in this together. I want to work with you, but we can't be doing this. It's a different level. Bill talks down to his players. Mike McDaniel talks across the table to his players. It's a more peer-to-peer relationship where McDaniels treats his players like we're working together. We're coworkers. I succeed when you succeed when I succeed. We are partners in this. Belichick didn't ever treat his players like partners, or so it would seem, as we both neither were in the Patriots locker room. It appears from the outside, he talked very much down to them, like a principal talking to his student, rather than a coworker you're trying to collaborate with. That's what I'm saying. I actually think any coach in the NFL, you're right, they keep their players extremely accountable, but the way you deliver the message is what it's about. And Bill never appeared to change the way he delivered the message to the players.
Yeah, I can see where you're coming from with that. In the sport of football, you know what? Yeah, I'll go ahead and get a little bit more on the fence side of things, where I can see changing how you deliver the message, but then also can see that kind of more old school style of how you approach, coaching these young kids as they come into the league and grow into men. Because at the end of the day, Bill Belichick does have more knowledge than a lot of these young cats. But you're right, there probably was room for him to grow in how he communicated that message.
Here's another clip from Damien Harris, this time talking about kind of the unraveling of the Patriots organization.
All of a sudden, Matt Patricia goes from defensive coordinator to offensive coordinator. Well, why is that? It's because we're all just pawns in Bill Belichick's game of Monopoly, and we can all be moved. We can all be interchanged. We can all be like, okay, well, you coached here all your life. Screw that. You can go coach here, because as long as you imply and instill what I am teaching, what I am coaching, then the team will have success.
So that phrase, we are all pawns in Bill Belichick's game of Monopoly, is so telling about the way he felt treated by Belichick. To me, it's like, oh, man. And then again, being like, yeah, we can move this coach from defensive coordinator to offensive coordinator as long as we're doing it my way. It's this attitude of like, we're going to work because it's me. It's very ego driven. This attitude Belichick had, according to Damien Harris. What do you make of what he just said?
Anytime you feel like you're a pawn and you're being moved and manipulated by somebody else, and it's not just you, it's evident that the coaching staff may also feel that way. I mean, if I'm Matt Patricia, right, and I'm a defensive guy, and I show up to the Pats fully expecting to be a defensive guy, and Bill comes and says, hey, you're offensive coordinator now. I'd be like, what are you talking about? That is not what I do. That is not what I am paid to do for a living. That's not what I was great at when I was with you and why I got hired by the Lions, right? So being a pawn in someone else's game is never where you want to be. Hearing a former player describe it that way, yeah, going back to the previous point, maybe there was not enough collaboration.
Now,
not even maybe. There certainly was not enough collaboration.
let's be clear. These are professional athletes, right? You're paying them. That's the transaction we're having. I'm paying you to do a job. It's a transactional relationship, but it doesn't have to feel that way, right? My point is when players feel loved and empowered and like you genuinely care about them, which hopefully you actually do, they're going to fight harder for you. As a quarterback with an offensive line, if you treat your offensive line better, they're going to give a little more effort for you when it matters most. I always believed that. Hey, the way you treat your linemen really matters. You want to ingratiate yourself to the people you're working with. It's the same with coaching. Yes, you're paying the players millions of dollars. That should be enough, but psychologically, emotionally, it's not. You want to ingratiate yourself to the people you work with. And is that sexy or cool? No, I realize the hard ass in me goes, dude, fuck, I'm paying you a ton of money. That should be enough. Get your ass together. Let's do the job. But I just think as a leader, you want to appeal to people's emotional state. You want to make them feel cared for and heard and listened to and like they're valuable. And new age coaches in the NFL do that. I don't think Bill did that. And that's what we're hearing from Damien Harris is he felt like a pawn. That's a problem, man.
Yeah, I think that what happened is that window of yeah, but, or that time of yeah, but for Bill Belichick ran out. He's a dickhead. Yeah, but we're winning a lot of games. And as soon as you stop winning games, there's a saying, winning cures all. As soon as you're not winning games, the first place people are going to look is obviously at the head coach. And then number two, whatever that negative perception that everyone was overlooking because you were winning, it comes to light and it starts to rear its head.
Yeah. Let's play the next clip.
Bill Belichick being stuck in his ways was very much so like, as long as I am here, as long as I am, along with Robert Kraft, the top dog at this organization, no matter who, no matter where, what position, where they coach, whatever, we will have success. The Cam Newton situation where we brought in Cam Newton because everybody was like, yo, W2, what the fuck is this? Like, why Cam Newton? Bill thought that he could make it work. It didn't really work.
When he talks about the Cam Newton situation, right? Bill thought he could make it work. And obviously it didn't, right? It's ego. It's, hey, like, because I'm Bill Belichick my way, I can always figure it out. And it just, the more we saw of, the post Tom Brady era in New England, it just wasn't true. And I waited. I remember when Belichick made a couple crazy moves. He brings in Cam Newton. He makes Matt Patricia the offensive coordinator. You're like, well, he's Bill Belichick. Like, he's the best coach you've ever seen. Like, I gave him the benefit of the doubt. The more I saw, like you said, the more we saw the Patriots without Tom Brady, the less and less I would continue to give him the benefit of the doubt. What do you make of that clip?
Just the part that sticks out to me is being stuck in your ways. Again, over the past 10 years, there's been such a drastic change in the way that football is played, and being unable to see that, to recognize that, to bring in other people to help move that along, and trying to stick with the group that you had and the same ideas, the same concepts, the same people, and you're just getting lapped by everybody. No bueno.
The next clip is really, really damning in my opinion. Take a listen.
I remember OTAs, like mini camp. We were having these meetings. We were sitting around talking amongst each other like, yo, how are we going to tell Bill that this shit ain't working? If anybody had anything to say about it, it was a very, very quick, swift, shut the fuck up. I know what I'm doing. And that's it. My
red flags go off when you think you're above criticism or you're not willing for any kind of feedback. I go, okay, like you really think you know everything? You think you'd have every answer and you're not available to have any kind of conversation? That's when I get concerned, because football aside, any walk of life, HVAC, literally anything. It's like, hey, anyone who thinks they have every answer to every problem is full of shit. And if you're not willing to have conversations and hard conversations about what is and isn't working, that's a problem. Sounds like Bill at the end of his time was like, hey, I'm the man, and we're not having that conversation at all. What do you make of that?
I mean, just asinine. To sit there when you have players trying to communicate how they feel and what they are seeing as the ones who are on the field and executing the plays and trying to communicate to you maybe how they are, seeing these things come together and communicating to you that maybe with this personnel, this might not work. And to have that be met with, I hear where you're coming, or to have it be met with, shut the fuck up, I know what I'm doing, instead of, hey, I hear what you're saying, I've seen this, and this. This leads me to believe that this, and this is going to work. Those are two entirely different conversations. Me just saying no, as opposed to giving like the rationale and the why. Like people talk about in coaching the why. If you can get your team to understand the why behind their doing things, they tend to perform better because they have that context of how everything works in the grand scheme of things. But if you're just saying it's because I said so, they're like, okay, well, it's not really working. And if it's because you said so, now I really just don't believe you, and I can't believe anything else you say. It's just weird and dumb and sad to see it go down like that.
We had when I coached, I loved the why. I loved explaining like why we're doing everything because it helps a player. Let me back up. When I was a kid, my mom would make rules and say, do this because I said so. And I'm like 10 years old going like, that rule doesn't make any sense. That's illogical. And she didn't want to hear it. There was no conversation willing to be had. And so as a parent, I'm going to try to never be that way. And my way of the highways is really unhealthy in my opinion. Especially when you should have a justifiable answer, like a justification for why you're doing what you're doing. If you can't explain why we're doing it this way, that's a massive problem. So when I coached, I designed our offense, and we had rock and load protection. Rock slid the protection to the right, and it told the backside tackle on the left, you're kick stepping, and it's a one-on-one at the defensive end. The backside guard, if he was head up or covered, would be a one-on-one. He's also kick stepping. Otherwise, he's part of the slide. If you're throwing to the flat on the right side, you want to slide the protection to the right, because your front side tackle is engaging and punching hard and not doing a deep kick step. So if you're trying to throw a 5-yard hitch to the right side of the field and he's kick stepping into your passing lane, the football is going to go into the back of the head of your right tackle. When I explained all that, it made a lot of sense. Hey, slide your protection to the direction you're going to throw the football. It really helped my quarterbacks. Or on top of that, in rock protection specifically, it was 5-man protection. The running back wasn't a part of the protection. We were swinging him away. So rock would slide the line right. Running back would do a swing route to the left, meaning if an outside backer blitzes off the edge to your backside, you have no help. So the quarterback had to know if the backer comes free, you got to get the ball out of your hands. We like getting blitzed. It means you got better numbers outside, but you got to release the football. And I would explain to all of them, like, here's how we're doing it. Here's why it is. Certain protections and just explaining protections for me was so fun. Teaching them the game, how it works and why. I loved it. And if I couldn't give them a detailed answer why we're doing it that way, I was failing as a coach. And that's why I thought through everything very clearly. But if you can't explain why you're doing it that way, that's a huge problem. And to me, for them not to be able to even ask those questions in New England is a horrifying reality. To say like, do it because I said so. It's like, well, we're not winning. Yeah. The offense is awful and none of this makes sense to us. We can't even have the conversation. That's crazy to me.
And that's the thing. I'm sure that Bill can explain it. There's no doubt in my mind that he knows why. But to just decide to say, because I said so. Imagine being a rookie and you're coming in and you're trying to understand from what I understand, like New England has a complex defense. You're trying to understand how things work and you're asking questions and it's just because I fucking said. Or that's how we always do things. Excuse my language. Sorry if you're watching with kids. But man, just talk about an ineffective way. We talked last episode about being an effective communicator. Hello.
Yeah, to me, part of coaching is teaching. You're a teacher of the game of football. You're helping your players have deeper understanding of the game you're playing. And anytime you're not willing to teach players, you're running from the responsibility of coaching, which is a huge problem to me. This is Damien Harris talking about how he felt as coaching was going on in New England. Take a listen to this.
We genuinely felt like our intelligence as football players was being insulted. Like, if you're going to present this to me and think that I'm going to go along with this and just think this is going to work, like, there would be times where we would be presented with information. We would just be right off the bat, like, this shit ain't going to work. This play that we're putting in, it's not going to work.
Imagine how discouraging it would be as a player to feel like what you're doing isn't going to work and you're not going to succeed. Like, the demoralizing reality of that, to just feel like you're being put in a position to fail, is horrifying to me.
And imagine the feeling of showing up and yes, your coaches are bringing you something that won't work. How are you supposed to continue to move forward with the rest of your season, with the rest of the meeting? And you're like, wait a minute. If we're using this as a building block and we're supposed to grow and develop from there, or, build on this, like, if it's not working now, it's not going to work later. And as a player, to recognize and feel confident enough to say that that's not going to work, there were probably a number of other things prior to that didn't work. So now when you see the same, bullshit again, you're like, okay, well, this isn't going to work. So it's not even just that first time. It's the 20 times before then where things weren't working, and then it's just not working, and it's not working, and it's not working, and it's not working. And you're just like, what are we doing here? Embarrassing is really the only word.
Man, I can't imagine. How do you give your best effort when you think you literally don't believe in what you're doing? Like, I work in sales and I'm really proud to sell a product I really believe in, but I couldn't do sales for a product I thought sucked. Imagine now you're doing physical labor. You're literally using your body and putting it on the line for something you don't even believe in. How difficult that would be. How awful that situation is.
You're uninspired. Yeah. We were talking about having that passion earlier. It's clear that the passion wasn't there. The passion's not there and the play isn't right. Man, what a recipe for disaster.
Yeah, this is during the Joe Judge, Matt Patricia era. This is him now talking about the transition of power. Remember, this is when the offense changed hands from Josh McDaniels, who left to go be the Raiders head coach. Matt Patricia and Joe Judge are made the co-offensive coordinators. This is how they handle the offense changing hands and them designing things their ways. Take a listen.
This is an ego-driven business. That's what it was. It's just a battle of the egos, man. And whatever was left over, whatever was carryover from Josh McDaniels to, I guess, the Joe Judge and Matt Patricia, they completely changed the names. They changed the thought behind it. Like, it was just like, we know it's the same thing. Just like, why are we trying so hard to just make it different so we can say that it's not Josh McDaniels' system? Like,
this clip is interesting.
What do you make of this clip?
Changing things for the sake of changing things, just to say that, it's yours, is just so crazy to me. Especially when you're two guys that aren't offensive guys. Why try and take somebody else's stuff, wrap it up, present it to the guys and say it's yours? Just be like, hey, we like what we had going with Josh McDaniels. We're going to do some similar things. We're going to have majority of the same terminology. We're going to try and put in a few wrinkles that we feel like is going to work. And we're going to keep building on what is already there. But to just try and erase something, call it something different, but it's the same thing, you're putting your guys like Mac Jones in a horrible position. Because I get the turnover of coordinators, right? They all have different terminology. But again, if you're just doing the same stuff, why go through the work of trying to call it something different? It just doesn't make any sense to me. And maybe I'm wrong on that. It's weird.
Well, you're taking Josh McDaniels' offense with a second-year quarterback, making him learn all new terminology and just basically recode what the things mean in your head to a different word. it's nonsense, man. And he says it best. It's ego driven. I wish people could recognize, hey, like, yeah, we're doing our best to run Josh McDaniel's system. Like, why couldn't they just acknowledge that? Because that's what they were doing in New England. And effectively, by the way, as well. I don't know, man. It's just sad how
Terribly
much
ineffectively.
just your ego gets in the way often of you succeeding. You meaning the royal you, and it's sad that that's really what it feels like happened with this Patriots offense in this era of New England. Was there was so much ego, and it's my idea, and it's this, and it's that, and it's like not willing to listen, not willing to acknowledge where you started, where you got the ideas from. It's all just it's weird and sad and disappointing to me.
Yeah, and maybe, now I'm getting my tinfoil hat on. Maybe this was Bill Belichick being upset with Josh McDaniels leaving again, and he's like, we're going to do everything that we can to erase the memory of Josh McDaniels being here. So then you go out of your way to do dumb stuff like that. Again, is that kind of wild conspiracy type stuff? But I could see if this place had become that ego driven. Yeah, like let's get rid of everything that hurt our feelings because they left to take a good head coaching job. I don't know.
Well, it's sad, so in my offense in high school football, right? We call the play Virginia, that meant 4 verticals. We had Florida, meant fade out. We had Carolina, which meant smash routes. It meant there was a corner from the inside receivers. We had Hawaii, that meant hitches. Like every name coincided with the routes the receivers were running. So the names are very intentional. If you take my offense and you rename stuff, suddenly the names lose their meaning. Like that's what I'm saying. I wonder if how much of the names were deliberate by Josh McDaniels, and by changing the names and recoding everything, it ends up not talking to each other, not working very well together. And I don't know, man. It's just sad. It's weird and messy to me what happened in New England. We've got 6 clips left. Now the conversation shifts from the dysfunction of New England into directly Mac Jones, how he was treated, what happened. We got 3 clips from Damien Harris and then 3 clips from Mac Jones coach Joe Dickinson. This is Damien Harris talking about the support he felt like Mac Jones did or did not have in New England.
And it's like when we got coaches who aren't even literally doing anything, Nathaniel, not a single thing to help this kid progress and make a jump from year 1 to year 2, it was disappointing to watch. I'm not going to lie. It was really disappointing.
This clip is just really sad, hearing a teammate of Mac Jones acknowledging like, hey, the organization wasn't doing what was necessary to support the kid from year 1 to year 2. Being in the locker room would be horrible. And I just feel bad for Mac Jones hearing that. And we got more, by the way, believe it or not, about this topic. But what do you make of that clip we just heard?
I mean, at least he had the support of the guys in the locker room, right? At least everybody was able to recognize kind of the fugazi that was going on, and just the fact that there's no weapons, we're randomly changing things on offense, we're not providing you with a quarterback whisperer, and we're just doing stuff for the sake of doing stuff, and we're not explaining why we're doing things. We're just doing stuff and nothing's working, so we're going to keep installing more of what's not working. And you just really feel for a guy like Mac Jones, who I know he was Pro Bowl by way of being an alternate his rookie year, but a guy who was a Pro Bowler. And again, we had talked about it when we were talking about the predictions for the Patriots, or the, what next year is going to look like. They just really let him down, and it's sad.
Yeah, take a listen to this from Damien Harris. He talks about what happened to Mac Jones.
What happened to Mac Jones in New England was not because of Mac Jones. What happened in New England to Mac Jones was because of the fact you took away an offensive coordinator who coached him to be a Pro Bowler and almost coached us to winning our division with a rookie quarterback in his first year. And then you take, whenever Josh McDaniels left, then you take Matt Patricia, who's coached defense his entire life, Joe Judge, who's been a special teams coach, coach receivers at some point, and then you just throw him in there and be like, hey, coach this kid up. He's a first round pick, but as long as you teach him what I say, everything's going to be fine. And shit wasn't fine.
So this is why we're doing this. What he just said right there. I haven't heard very many people go out of their way to support Mac Jones. I feel like the national conversation is Mac Jones sucked. he was bad. He got Bill Belichick run out of town. This is Mac Jones' former teammate saying it plainly. Hey, the team didn't do enough to support him. He literally says what happened to Mac Jones wasn't Mac Jones' fault. How often do you hear that? We almost always hear people point the blame and tell people to take more accountability. You almost never hear a teammate making excuses for another former teammate. This is rare language we're hearing from a former NFL player. Am I wrong on that? Like, I don't hear very many NFL players talking about a former teammate this way. This is really strong support for Mac Jones and something we haven't heard very much of nationally.
Yeah, and do you remember how distraught Mac Jones would look at the podium week after week? And he's just like, I don't know. Like, I don't have answers. I'm trying. We're trying. And it was one of the most sad things to watch. And again, you've got the crowd chanting for Bailey Zappi to come in. You got people celebrating him being benched. And again, as a young quarterback in the league and as still a young man in your early 20s, you are just taking the brunt of a national media putting you in the dirt for things that are completely out of your control. Really, really sucks. And it certainly makes me feel for Mac Jones. But again, it sounds like there were some guys in the locker room who had the understanding of what was going on. And hopefully, with the Jaguars, he'll be able to get, a little bit more developed and perhaps feel supported.
Well, imagine, right? You have a problem on the field. You've got a coach who's coached defense his entire life. And you're like, hey, coach, I need help with this. And he's like, well, when I was defensive coordinator of the Lions, you're like, no. That story doesn't help me at all. I'm not getting what I need here in this moment, right? It's a coach who had no context to that position. It's crazy to me.
And especially at the quarterback position. It's so unique from the other positions in the vision. And when you have somebody who can't level with you on what's going on the field, brutal.
One of our later clips really speaks to this. So let's just move right along ahead. I want to get to the Joe Dickinson stuff, but let's hear the final clip of Damien Harris.
You replace, like I said, Josh McDaniels with Matt Patricia and Joe Judge, and then look at the year that we had that year, and then the following year, and then now Mac Jones is all of a sudden gone. And I think that everybody can look at, what I just said, and ultimately look at it and just watch it for what it was, and kind of say that maybe Bill Belichick did not do right by Mac Jones.
Maybe Bill Belichick didn't do right by Mac Jones. And that's a direct quote from Damien Harris. We just played, I don't know, like 10 clips or something from another podcast. So I feel weird about that. I want to acknowledge that. Like, I don't want to steal the Athletic Football Show's entire thing. I want to give them credit where credit's due. But this is what Damien Harris is saying here, the way he's laid out his whole argument in favor and in support of Mac Jones is so unique. I just haven't heard anyone else really highlighting that or doing that. So, hey, shout out to Robert Mays and shout out to the Athletic NFL Show, but shout out to Damien Harris for being pretty honest and open with his language and critical of Bill Belichick and critical of the Patriots. And what's interesting is I don't get a sense of disdain. I don't hear Damien Harris hating the Patriots. He's just also being honest about how dysfunctional it was and how frustrating it was at times. I really appreciate that. And I really want to say again, like, it's rare to hear this take. Someone say, it's not Mac Jones' fault. What happened to him wasn't his fault. It was Bill Belichick not supporting him. What do you make of all that?
Yeah, I think it's put out there plain, cut and dry at the end from Damien Harris. Bill Belichick and the Patriots organization did not do right by Mac Jones. By not doing right by your franchise quarterback, odds are you're not doing right by the rest of your organization. So there it is.
This is Tom Curran now, Patriots Talk podcast. He's interviewing Joe Dickinson, who's been Mac Jones' quarterback coach for the last 14 years. He knows Mac Jones pretty well. That's a long time to know each other and work together. Joe Dickinson is talking about how Mac Jones felt. We got 3 clips. Let's play clip number 1 right now.
Well, I think he didn't feel like he had anybody on the coaching staff that could help him to get him out of jams that you automatically get yourself in as a quarterback. I mean, there was guys learning on the job there. They're great coaches. Don't get me wrong. Come on, man. Those guys are documented good coaches, but they were both in the first year. They were coaching, being an offensive coordinator and being a quarterback coach. He didn't feel like at that time, and at that time, he had a guy that could say, hey, I got your back here. I'm going to help you out of this situation that you're in. I'm going to try to make you a better player. How are you going to do that when you've never actually done that as a coach? It would be what I would call coaching out of position.
I love what Joe Dickinson says. He says it was a coach coaching out of position, learning on the job. And he's actually pretty classy here, acknowledging like these are good NFL coaches. This is a guy who's been head coach of the Detroit Lions. That doesn't happen on accident. A Super Bowl winning coach. Like I do actually appreciate the respect he's giving Matt Patricia and Joe Judge by not just dismissing them, calling them horrible coaches. They are good coaches, but they were coaching out of position. They were in uncharted territory for them, doing things they've never done before, learning on the job, which is wildly inappropriate when you got a second-year quarterback you drafted in the first round. It's mission critical at that point of a young player's career to support them with the best people you can possibly find. Maybe not wing it with a defensive coordinator coaching out of position as your offensive coordinator. What do you make of all that?
I mean, there have been instances where a defensive coordinator can be an offensive coordinator, right? There's a little bit of understanding of what an offense is trying to do, so they could perhaps put something together. Now, I'm giving this guy too much credit, and I know that might hit a chord with you. But to me, the crazier thing is, why not just get a quarterback coach in there for Mac Jones? Like, if you want to go offensive coordinator, you want to put a guy in there you trust, Matt Patricia, okay, great. But at the minimum, get him a quarterback coach or somebody who's actually thrown the football or been around people throwing the football for a long period of time. Get someone like that in the building. And like he was saying, there was nobody that said, hey, I have your back. I've been through this before. I've seen this kind of stuff before. These are the steps that we can take to get this ship going in the right direction. Actually, I'm going to take all that stuff back. That is just so dumb to put your defensive coordinator as an offensive coordinator. I can see, if you got a D-line coach and he transitions to linebackers, right? Your front seven's pretty connected. The two have to work in tandem. Or same thing, safeties to corner. Or you're talking about slot receivers to outside receivers, or, tight end to running back. I don't even, just, again, taking the most important function in today's football, which is your offense, in my opinion, with the way the league is trending, and the most important part of that offense, your quarterback, and having nobody with experience in there to help them grow, blows my mind.
So I coached briefly, but I was an offensive coordinator. And my responsibility was I had to know how to coach every single position on the offensive side of the football. Right guard, center, left guard, left tackle, tight end, outside receiver, your slot receivers, your quarterback, your running back. I had to know what everyone was doing, the responsibility, how they all talk to each other. I thought I was pretty good at that. I knew how to do all of that. I'm not confident I could go be a defensive coordinator because I don't really understand. I mean, I know what they're doing theoretically. Like, I know how defense works. I know how you communicate to some degree, but the nuance of it, the little ways of preparation, I'm sure given some time, I could learn how to be a good defensive coordinator. But to try to do that on the fly is crazy. It would take me a year or two before I would really know. Like, I'd have to learn from year one to go, hey, I probably should have better communication between the linebackers and the safeties this year and do a better job, when we switch on certain coverages, stuff like that. Like, I would learn a lot in the process of doing it. Whereas an offensive coordinator, I didn't have to learn very much. I knew what I was doing.
Yeah.
My point is, Matt Patricia was learning on the job. He was figuring out how to do the role at an NFL level. It's so irresponsible, man, to take Mac Jones' career and just roll the dice with it that way. It's crazy. And I remember when Matt Patricia was hired as offensive coordinator, I remember trying to be like, well, like, I guess from a defensive perspective, you know how a defense works, so you know how to attack a defense, I guess. But no. Now that I've coached, actually, I would say I was actually more wrong than I thought. Like, trying to go from offense to defense is a totally different beast because coaching every position on offense and defense is totally different. The way they communicate, everything is different. It's not that simple that just, hey, football, so you know how to attack a defense because you've been a defensive coordinator. Yeah, but you don't know how the linemen are supposed to communicate with the quarterback. You don't know the procedure of who calls the protection. Is it the quarterback? Is it the center? Is it the coach? There's all this procedural stuff. You just have no idea what you're doing, and you're figuring it out, winging it. You can't do that with a second-year, first-round quarterback. Terrible coach. It's bad planning.
And you just can't do it in the NFL. I'm sorry. You can't be doing that in the NFL, especially not at your key coordinator positions.
Yeah. It's I really look back at my take back then. I was trying to be I believed in Belichick, man. I remember saying like, well, I mean, if anyone can do it, it's Belichick. Even Bill Belichick couldn't do that. It didn't work.
Yeah, I mean, I just caught myself trying to be fair, and I was like, wait a minute. This sounds really dumb. you can't what do you want to call it? You can't put feathers on a dog and call it a duck. It's just not a duck. You can't take a defensive coordinator and make him an offensive coordinator and call him an offensive coordinator. It's just not what it is.
We haven't even talked about, how it must have felt for Mac Jones, feeling like, and we talked about this a minute ago, you're in a really stressful moment. It's the fourth quarter, you're getting heckled, whatever. And the coach you're supposed to lean to and trust is a coach who's never been in that position before. That's insane, man. Like he said, he felt like he had no one who had his back, who could give him the answers to help him. As a player, you're helpless. If the people you're supposed to look to guide you can't help you, you're just fucked. It's a terrible position to be in. It makes me feel really bad for Mac Jones. Like that's so inappropriate and should never happen.
Should never happen.
Here is clip number 2. This is a smattering of clips from Joe Dickinson talking about Mac Jones. Let's roll the clip now.
I think that he felt like, there wasn't a commitment to him. I think it's about development and the lack of being developed by the correct people.
So he felt like there wasn't a commitment to him, and he felt like there wasn't the right people developing him. And it further helps me double down and triple down on Mac Jones was put in a horrible situation and one he never should have been put in. And it's widely irresponsible the way his career was managed by Bill Belichick. Would you agree?
Yeah, it's that again, that right there was pretty cut and dry. There was nobody there to develop Mac Jones.
Here's the final clip. It's a surprise to me, actually. We'll play it, then we'll talk about it.
Most people don't know this, and after the first season, and I saw that it was really good for Mac, and I saw that his coach was leaving and whatever, I advised Mac and his agent to go and ask for a trade. Because I didn't see that what he was sticking around him or whatever, the help or whatever. I just said, hey, I just think it'd be better for you and the Patriots if they trade you. That was going into 22 because I felt like, hey, if you really want this guy to work, you're going to get some guys around him. You're going to put the right guys around him, helping him. And if you don't, just it's real easy. Just trade him, get another guy.
So this is kind of a bombshell to me. After year 1 in New England, Mac Jones was advised to seek a trade to leave the Patriots. After Josh McDaniels left and they figured out what was going on, the support he was getting, before the season started, Joe Dickinson said, hey, Mac, you should consider asking for a trade. Matt Patricia is your offensive coordinator. You don't have great receivers around you. I didn't expect this, but it's actually really wise. And it's sad to me. The reason I play this clip and want to talk about it is Mac Jones got punished for trusting Bill Belichick and for being loyal to the organization he was drafted in. Mac Jones, you wouldn't know this, but he grew up watching Tom Brady, wanting to be like Tom Brady. Having to fill Tom Brady's shoes was a crazy responsibility, but also something he wanted to do. He wanted to stay with the Patriots. He wanted to succeed where Tom Brady did. He looked up to Tom Brady. They had a similar playing style. Joe Dickinson in this interview with Tom Curran talks about how Mac Jones used to watch Tom Brady's tapes. Like he used to train and prepare to be like him. Then imagine going to that guy's former team. Like that's crazy. So he wanted to make it work. He was loyal to New England and he got burned for that loyalty. I don't very often, I'm usually very harsh on players. I'll say, hey man, what could you have done better? Jamarcus Russell, for example, with the Raiders, he didn't do any of the prep required to be a successful NFL quarterback. He wasn't watching tape. He wasn't doing the training. He wasn't taking care of his diet. He didn't take care of his side of the bargain. Mac Jones, it didn't matter. Even if he did everything he could in his power to succeed, he wasn't being put in a position to do well. There was no help. He didn't have the right teammates. He literally didn't have help from his coaching staff. It's a wildly inappropriate situation he was put in. And you just can't help but feel bad for Mac Jones. And the reason we're doing this entire episode is because I feel like no one's ever said that. No one's ever acknowledged how unfair the situation Mac Jones was put in. And this is very unusual for me to play like 10 clips from another podcast and highlight all these other shows. But I just thought Damien Harris laid it out so well. And I really feel like we need to come to the defense of Mac Jones and point out how awful that situation was. And also acknowledge, like, if Mac Jones ever gets a fair shot somewhere else, it's interesting. Like, Mac Jones in Minnesota is interesting. Mac Jones in the 49ers organization is interesting. Mac Jones being given a fair shot to succeed where he wasn't in New England is something I would love to see. And I just feel like no one's talking about that. We're also quick to trash Mac Jones, call him garbage. He failed. He's horrible. But if you're going to do that, you also have to acknowledge how difficult of a position he was put in. What do you say to all that?
Man, what you said, Mac Jones to Minnesota actually kind of got my ears ringing a little bit. I was like, ooh, that doesn't sound too bad.
It's interesting. It's interesting.
I think that this tells a larger story of dysfunction. And dysfunction anywhere, not just in the NFL, in other sports, in your own life, maybe, whether that's your home life or whether that is at work, in a relationship. Dysfunction and chaos and incompetence can make it very, very hard to be successful, regardless of how great you are. Being able to recognize dysfunction and find your way out of it to somewhere that there is competence, someone who can develop you, is important. And I'm going to take this with a little grain of salt from his quarterback coach. And I told him to request a trade. Whether he did or not, it's really easy to say that, in hindsight, because you'd assume that with that Patriots staff, like Mac Jones trusted that they were going to get people to continue growing and developing. Again, I was just a Pro Bowler. I had a great season. Like, we can keep building off these things. And so when you have that kind of positive momentum, it's really, really difficult to see, maybe what was ultimately around the corner. So dysfunction is tough in more than just sports and in more than just the Patriots. And man, do your best to recognize it and distance yourself from it.
I don't know that do you realize what you just said? I saw a meme recently. It said, when if you get on the wrong train, get off at the first stop, because the longer you stay on the wrong train, the harder it is, and the farther and farther you get away from your goal, basically.
Yep.
I feel like a little bit in my own life that just happened, and I don't want to get into it too much, but sometimes you dodge a bullet. I think that I recently got out of a situation like that where I was in maybe a bad environment, and I got lucky to, not my choice, but get kicked out of there, and maybe it's a blessing in disguise. Working in a dysfunctional organization, the thing I learned about my time coaching, and the things I really did learn a lot in this month I was an offensive coordinator in high school football. I learned so much about how coaching works, about the process, about players, about politics within an organization, all of it. It was actually something I'm grateful for, because I'm going to draw so many lessons from it. I'm going to be able to apply to the show for years and years and years. Even this one silly little month of coaching is something I'm going to be able to talk about and draw from for a long time. When you're in a dysfunctional organization, it's really hard to succeed, and it's painful and difficult. And you can try your best from within to fight against the dysfunction, but if at the top it's bad, you're just screwed. And I just feel so bad for Mac Jones being put in a situation that was so unfair to him, where no matter what he did, he wasn't going to succeed. Sorry, Matt Patricia as your offensive coordinator, it's not going to work. It was never going to work.
Not going to work. Never going to work.
And I just, man, to me, this whole episode's titled around Bill Belichick's biggest mistake. Let's have this debate now. What's a bigger mistake? Letting Tom Brady go and not treating him with the respect he deserved and really supporting him at the end of his career? Or is it actually worse that after they moved on from Tom Brady, they didn't even support the guy they brought in to replace him? They didn't even support Mac Jones. It's one thing to let Tom Brady leave in his old age, but if you're going to replace him, at minimum, get the next guy, great coaches, great receivers. Like, what's a bigger sin? No matter what, the way you look at it, Bill Belichick didn't treat quarterbacks very well, at least not at the final years. And it's like, man, what a shame for this to be the way the Patriots dynasty came to an end.
Yeah, I can comfortably say the latter is definitely worse. Not developing or setting up Mac Jones, or maybe not even whoever the successor was going to be, failing to set them up for success, far worse. Because at the minimum, maybe you don't obviously win that Super Bowl the first year without Tom Brady, but maybe, I don't know, 2, 3, 4 years down the line, you could get one. But now you're looking at being a dumpster team for going on 3 years. It's probably going to be another 2 more before things even truly start to turn around. Man, that to me is far worse. Leaving the kitchen cupboard empty. Now you can't even get a job elsewhere. And people like Damien Harris are coming out and saying, hey, the jig is up. This dude wants maximum control, doesn't want to explain why he needs that maximum control. And in an era of collaboration and growth and this adaptation that the game is having, you can't just be a one-track mind. You got to be able to open up, receive criticism, take feedback, and yeah.
Bill didn't do a good job delegating to the people beneath him either, it sounds like. One of the things we didn't include in this podcast is a clip of Damien Harris talking about going to Buffalo, actually, and how different it was. And how when he went to the Buffalo Bills, he had a running back coach that if he had a problem, he talked to his running back coach. He didn't get shuffled off into the office to talk to Bill Belichick directly. He went through the proper channels of communication. And the head coach, I forget the name of him right now. What's the coach in Buffalo? Doug Marrone. What is it?
In Buffalo? Like Buffalo? Yeah. Sean McDermott?
Sean McDermott, yeah. Thanks. I said Doug Marrone. Sean McDermott. I was like, who? yeah, sorry. Sean McDermott delegates to the people underneath him. And he trusts his lieutenants to do a good enough job and doesn't have every single situation come across his desk as well. His hands aren't in everything. That's how most NFL teams operate, from my understanding. The people I know, the people who play, the people I talk to. Belichick had this really unique and kind of unhealthy level of control in New England. It was unlike anywhere else. And when players would leave New England, they'd go, oh, weird. This is really different. I haven't been treated this way like ever. This is how it's like in the NFL. Like, oh my gosh. It was eye-opening for people. I think letting Tom Brady go, like Tom Brady left and won a Super Bowl. And I don't know that if Tom Brady had stayed in New England, they were going to win another Super Bowl with Tom Brady. I just think that he needed more help and more support, and the Patriots hadn't created an environment for that. I agree with you that the bigger sin here is if you're going to let a guy like Tom Brady walk, you better take that situation really seriously and support the next guy with a ton of aggression. And they didn't support the next quarterback properly at all. And it ruined what was going on in New England. Bill Belichick lost his job because of it. And was he forced out? Did he resign? All this conversation, like, it didn't seem like it ended well. It didn't end gracefully or peacefully. They didn't want him there anymore in New England by the time he left. And it's just unfortunate. I wonder, I doubt Bill is ever going to publicly acknowledge, the mistakes that he made at the end. Partially because I think by doing that, you kind of throw Matt Patricia and Joe Judge under the rug. Like, to say like, yeah, I really fucked up by making Matt Patricia offensive coordinator. Like,
should not have hired these guys.
Yeah, like, you're just burning your friend, which I get it if he never does. But I wouldn't mind if he ever did acknowledge. Maybe a classy way to put it was say like, I wish I'd done more to support Mac Jones. I'd love to hear that from Bill Belichick someday. He's doing broadcasting tours and all over the country now doing stuff. Before he's gone, at some point, I'd like to hear him say and acknowledge like what was done wrong by Mac Jones. You don't have to spare the details. Don't have to name names, but I'd love to hear him acknowledge like, yeah, I didn't handle the situation very well. Because in my opinion, in my analysis, he did a terrible job putting Mac Jones in a position to be successful.
Yeah, I agree with that. And from what I've heard, though, you're talking about this, media tour that Bill Belichick has been on. Sounds like the dude's a great hang, and he's got crazy stories. So, despite how all these things went wrong, another guy I would love to just crack open a beer with and be like, bro, how was just 20 years of being at the top of the game? How was it? What was it like? Give me the stories. Talk about, the transitions between those early years when you went from Bledsoe. I'm going to start gushing, but it would just be cool. Cause again, I heard he's a great hang, and anytime you have a guy who's had that much success, you just want to be able to pick their brain. And then at the end, maybe go like, okay, so really what was the deal, bro? What were we doing these last years in New England?
I say a lot of stuff on the podcast. I really do. And I've gotten in trouble for it in my personal life, right? But I never say something on the podcast I wouldn't say to your face. I never do. And I mean that when I say that. And if I met Bill Belichick, first of all, I obviously would love that. I would love to talk to him. I would have a great time. And if he was offended by anything I said on the podcast, I'd say, well, let's talk about it. We don't have to make it public, but let's dive into what I said. Where am I wrong? Like, how was this the right way to support Mac Jones? Tell me where I'm wrong. I'd love to have that conversation with him.
Totally.
And I try to be the same person I am in person as I am on the show. And I'll whatever I say on the show, I'll say to your face. And I'd tell Bill Belichick, I know this is a bit bold and brash, but I've learned, because I literally got fired from a job for what I said on the podcast, right? I will say whatever I say on the show, I will say to your face. I will have that conversation with you. I won't back down from it peacefully. I'm aggressive and angry, but I would have no problem asking Bill Belichick, like, dog, what were you doing? I like humanizing him, though, because he does seem like a really fun guy to hang out with. And you should look up who his girlfriend is. It's you're like, that's Belichick's girlfriend?
Bro,
wow.
The craziest things, like the clips of him sneaking out of the house shirtless. You're just like, come on. So he's just a guy. At the end of the day, we're all, he's a human. So
yeah. Again, the reason we're here today is just to come out and support a Mac Jones. Weirdly enough, right? Acknowledging what was done wrong by him. It's something that I just think no one's really done nationally. You just don't see many people talk about how unfair the situation Mac Jones was in was. And we have a bunch of Patreon questions. I want to skip them today. I think we've gone almost 2 hours now. We got plenty of show. I gotta edit this a ton. But man, any final thoughts you want to add today before the show is over?
Yeah, I'm just curious what some of the listeners think here, because we've obviously come to the conclusion that this was not fair for Mac Jones in any way whatsoever. So after all you guys see the clips, let us know what you think. Are we on the right track here? Do you think things were unfair? Let me know. I would love to hear, what you guys think about this situation.
Nathan, I love you, man. I really love doing the show with you. It's so fun. It's a blessing to have you. It makes my life easier. I've never done a show like this with this many clips, this many reactions to whatever. It's like almost making a reaction style YouTube video. It's very non-SOS. It's been a fun kind of out of the box episode for us. And I just want to say thank you for your time. And I love you so much, man.
Yeah. Love you too, dog.
Great job.